Hello, Richard here, and I'm really happy to say I've finally managed to acquire one of these, which is a hand shaper. And no, they don't use the nail bars and things like that. It's a metalworking tool for shaping metal, and quite possibly the coolest hand tool you've probably never heard of. Um, I've been after one of these for quite a while now. Basically, a hand shaper. This is a sort of smaller cousin of a full-size shaper, and a full-size shaper is normally 8, 9, 10 feet long, perhaps, maybe 3 meters long, and much bigger machine driven by a motor. This is a smaller version, which is powered by hand. And I'll show you how it works in just a short while. We'll get it on the bench and take a few cuts with it. Now, shapers are really old machines. The first shapers, the first power shapers, go back probably 200 years or so. And there was different varieties of these kinds of machines. There were shapers, there were planers. You could get these in a vertical configuration. You had slotters and broachers and all kinds of machines. And these really predated milling machines. So these were sort of superseded by horizontal milling machines. And then later on, vertical mills, and obviously now CNC has replaced all of this. This particular machine is an English machine, and these were manufactured by a company called Cowles back in the 1950s and 1960s. So this is probably about 70 years old, this tool. Now, these were originally supplied, as far as I can tell, in a kit form. So you'd buy one of these from Cowles, it would come as a load of unmachined castings, and you then had to machine it and finish it and build it, which is no mean feat, really, because this has been finished to a really high standard, I've got to say. Now, I've purposefully left it in this really grotty-looking condition. Grotty-looking, but in actually really good condition. But it's so caked in grease and oil that there's basically no rust, just a bit of surface rust, so it's in really good nick. But I wanted to leave it exactly as I found it so that you can sort of see where we are, because I will be doing a bit of a restoration job on this as we go along. But first of all, let's get it over on the bench. I'll clamp it down and I'll show you what it does. I'll show you how it works. Okay, so I've got the shaper clamped to the bench just with a couple of general purpose clamps. Ordinarily, you'd have this bolted down to a really sturdy bench, but this will do. And I just want to show you how it works. And if you've never seen one of these before, you're probably busting to know how it works and what it does. So let's get straight onto that. Now, basically what this does is you have a bed here where you can attach your work, and then you have a ram here, and it has a cutting tool. And as you move it backwards and forwards, it'll cut metal, or it'll shape the metal. So let me just show you how that works. I get this old piece of scrap I've got here. I'm just going to put this down on the bed, and let me just move this out of the way a little bit. I need to raise this up by turning this dial here. So what I'm going to do is just clamp this down. Ordinarily, you'd have a vise on here, like a milling vise or a drill vise, and you could put your work in that. But what we'll do for the moment is just attach this on with a couple of G-cramps. Like so. And then what we'll do, you'll notice here we've got this cutter. As I say, we've got a ram. So I'm going to lower the cutter down so it's just touching the work. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just going to move it over a bit as well. Okay. Now I'm just going to lower the cutter until it just starts to contact the work. Okay, that's not bad. Move it over all the way. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just start moving the cutting head backwards and forwards. And what it'll do is it's going to take little cuts off this piece of work here. And every time it completes a pass, it's going to step over slightly. So let me just show you how that works. So you can see that every time I push the lever backwards, this piece of metal here goes over this little, like a detent. And then as I pull forwards, you'll see that this will actually pull forwards. And what that's doing on the other side is it's automatically advancing the feed that goes this way. So every single stroke, the ram advances slightly over. And the effect of that is that it'll actually machine the top of the metal. Now you notice I've got my finger on this piece here. This is called the clapper box. So on a shaper, this is the clapper assembly. This is the clapper box. This is the clapper or tool holder. This is supposed to move freely up and down, because if you imagine it, the tool will cut along here, and then on the way back, it needs to flip up out of the way. And it should do that under gravity. but this needs a little bit of sorting out. There's a burr in there or something stopping it from falling back. So I'm having to just put a little bit of finger pressure on just to simulate it working properly. But hopefully you see there, it's machining along there quite nicely. Just taking a fairly fine cut. Oh, I need to make sure I go all the way with this to feed it along. And if we keep going, we will have effectively milled off the top of this piece of work. We'll have made this completely flat and also parallel with the bed. So this is, as I say, it's like an early form of milling machine. Very easy to operate, very versatile. Ideal tool for the home workshop. If you've got a home metal workshop and you haven't got the space for a full-size milling machine, or you just enjoy working with old hand tools, then these little things are ideal. And this will do things you just can't do in the lathe. You can do quite a bit with a lathe. If you have a four-jaw chuck, you can make things square and flat with a lathe still. But there are things you can't do on a lathe. And one of the things you can't really do on a lathe is things like cutting slots. So with this, I could change the cutter arrangement and I could use this to machine a slot into something. I can make a tongue and groove joint. I can make dovetails. So this is probably going to come in really useful when I do more work on my mini lathe. If I want to refinish the dovetails, I could basically mount up the cross slide in here, say, set this over at the required angle, and then I can use this to actually machine the dovetails flat, assuming that this is all true, which I believe it is. I think it's pretty good. This particular machine will work on up to a 6" by 6" square. So you can machine some fairly big pieces of metal in here and achieve flatness with them. You could also, if you wanted to, you could cut gear teeth with this. Another great use for shapers as well is for cutting keyways. So you can cut keyways with these. So there you go. That's a quick overview of the hand shaper and how it works and what it does, what you can use it for. Like I said, I've left this intentionally exactly as I got it. I haven't done any work to it at all. I haven't cleaned it. I haven't tweaked it or tuned it or anything like that. What I want to do is do another little maybe mini series where we do this up a little bit. I'm going to restore it. Now, when I say restore it, it's not going to be one of those sort of YouTube restoration videos where it comes out with hot rod flames and glassy smooth paint and chrome wing mirrors and all that kind of stuff. I'm very much a utilitarian restorer. So I would like to restore this to be, to look nice, but to be functional and up together. And I think it's pretty good. I've had a quick look at it. It all seems to be pretty tight and pretty square. So what we're going to do is take a few measurements on it. We'll see just how level the bed is, see whether that needs to be leveled, see if there's any play, any backlash, the usual kind of stuff. We'll get the dial gauges on it and see what shape it's in. Now, I do suspect that given the amount of cast iron I've got at my disposal here, there may be an element of hand scraping coming into this project. So be prepared for that. I think it'd be nice to sort of scrape some of these surfaces in. Anything that's good, I mean, if these ways are all good, I will leave them well alone. But I've got a feeling that the angle plate for the bed maybe needs to be squared up a bit. We'll make sure that's square with the axis of the ram. So yeah, be prepared for plenty of hand scraping, plenty of measuring, and we'll get this cleaned up, squared up, running nicely, give it a nice coat of paint, and it'll prove to be a really useful little tool for the workshop. So stay tuned for that.